Welcome to the Attention Now podcast. Today we have Larry Kaifesh, a consultant, Marine Corps colonel, retired, a veteran, and a constitutional colonel. Larry, welcome to the show.
Dave, it's great to join you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for your thanks for being in the Marine Corps and serving all this time. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Just wanted to start off if you could give us a quick introduction about yourself and about the Marine Corps, what you're doing in the Marine Corps.
Well, Larry Kaifesh, retired Marine, 28 years, 7 combat tours to the Middle East after the attacks of 9/11. You loved my time there. I was an infantry officer by trade, but I do have a background in intelligence and also civil affairs. So I picked up a couple MOSs along the way. But been retired now for about 4 or 5 years and still working to serve and God, family, country, and the Constitution.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for that introduction. A couple of things before we get started on what you're doing nowadays. When you were leaving the Marine, obviously you were retired. Did you have certain plans on what you were going to do once you exited the Marine Corps?
Well, I knew I was going to continue to serve. My experience was a little bit unique. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. But I knew I was going to continue to serve.
Okay. Pretty much like everybody else. They're not sure what's going to happen, but we figure it out. So that's good. All right. What was when you were in the Marine Corps, what was one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from the Marine Corps?
Well, I think the most valuable lesson, as an infantry officer, they really train you to be a leader. Really, that's what Marine Corps is all about, right? That's what makes us unique and distinct. We focus on developing leaders, and I think the most valuable lesson learned was as a leader, if you really want to be successful, you really only have to do 2 things: love those that you're serving and let them know that you do anything for them. And and that's a philosophy that I've carried throughout my life, and I actually had it beforehand, playing sports all my life. But if you love the people and you take care of the people that you're leading, and they know you'll do anything for them, they'll run through walls for you. So I was very blessed to figure that out real quick, but it's just kind of natural too. And then of course benefit from the results of that.
Yeah, that I totally agree with you on that. I remember a major that I served under, and he always checking in on me, make sure I'm doing well, and you could tell he cared, right? And so asked about my family and stuff, and it's like that made a world of difference. But it's amazing how many people never get to that point, though. So I'm glad you brought that up. So that's awesome. What was one of the biggest challenges that you had in the Marine Corps?
One of the biggest challenges, speaking truth
Yep.
against speaking truth and going against the talking points trickling down from the top. And so I noticed myself getting in a lot of arguments. I had 7 tours. The first several tours were very deliberate. This was combat. We were there to do a job, and we did it, and we were given missions accordingly. The longer I was there, the more deployments I went to, it started to get vague. Mm-hmm. And I realized towards the end there, I said, I don't think we're in it to win it. We're in it for other reasons.
Right.
And that's when I started making noises about that. That made people concerned. And I was getting in discussions with generals and so forth, about why are we doing this if our mission is that? And so, some of the challenging things I realized, up and down the chain of command, most of them are going to just Roger and go forward and not really question authority. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, especially with what's going on in the world today and what was going on back then, but it just wasn't so apparent.
Right. And that's really tough, right? Being in the Marine Corps, you learn to follow directions, you learn to follow the rules and the orders, right? So, and they train you, don't question.
Yeah.
Right. So
the rules need to be lawful, correct?
Yeah, right. Well, they give you that mindset, but you got to use your common sense, right, and make the right decisions. Obviously we took an oath to serve the country, right? And if you see something wrong, you got to speak up, but you know you could get in trouble. So that's an interesting point. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, awesome. Let me see, where are we going here next? All right, we're going to skip one that I had here for you. So you've been really successful. You were successful in the Marine Corps. It looks like you're doing some great stuff right now, and I think this is going to be a great topic because the elections are right around the corner. But how did you develop the mindset needed to succeed? Was it influenced through family or the Marine Corps? And you and I talked about this a couple days ago a little bit. So just wanted to kind of get your feedback on that, so our audience can know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, I was blessed. I had a wonderful family growing up. I had great teachers, great coaches. I was very engaged from a very young age in athletics, and I was very committed as a student. So I always was trying to do my best, and I had a burning desire inside always to try to do my best. Yeah, and so with that, you start to learn things. You got to have the proper motivations. You got to be motivated in the proper manner, and you got to understand, most importantly, the key to success, which I believe is discipline. Right. I went to Indiana University on an athletic scholarship. Bobby Knight was the coach there
Oh,
when I
wow.
arrived. He was an awesome coach. Even though I was wrestling, he was a basketball coach. I think his philosophy was spot on. And he talked about discipline being, knowing what you need to know when you need to do it at the best of your ability, and do it that way all the time. And I mean, in short, that's pretty much what it was. I had great role models. My father was a hard worker. My mother was working. I worked in a blue collar neighborhood, so everybody was not afraid to work hard, and there was value in that. So, and that is all I did. I tried to do the right thing and work as hard as I could. And I think no matter where you go, of course, that's going to benefit you.
Right, right. And you said you were wrestling before. Obviously, you wrestled obviously before college, so you learned how to work hard and train hard back then as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I started competing at a very young age. Started with football, and then I went to basketball and cross country, track, and then wrestling. I was an undefeated state champion in Illinois. Got a scholarship to go to Indiana. I
Oh,
wrestled in the
wow.
Olympic trials as a sophomore. Wasn't quite ready for the big time, but had several great matches. And then obviously after graduation, I had to make a decision. What I was going to do. Become a graduate assistant, continue my wrestling career, go to work, or I had a burning desire to serve. And that is, of course, when I went to the Marine Corps and went through OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Awesome. Yeah, I think having those examples makes a huge difference. I think nowadays, people aren't being guided to win, to be number one, right? Everybody's giving out these participation trophies. It's like, you know what? You want to be the best, you want to get to the top to make sure that you're succeeding. And if you have that mindset, I think that helps you immensely. So
Absolutely.
so once, actually, I'm going to go back to the Marine Corps for a second. So once you got the OCS, was OCS what you expected?
You know what? I didn't really know what to expect, but I think it was pretty close to what I expected.
Okay,
I knew it was going to be challenging. I knew I was going to be around a bunch of great patriots. I knew I was going to be learning a lot and tested. All that was true. Um, and I really loved the camaraderie that was developed early on. From the time you checking into OCS to going to the basic school and infantry officer course. So um, I didn't have all the expectations. No, I was talking to folks, but predominantly it was what I expected. It was probably just better than I imagined it would have been.
awesome. And the physical part probably wasn't hard for you at all, was it?
No, no, no. I mean,
Because you had already trained, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Wrestling. I mean, that's a phenomenal sport. It's going to challenge you physically. What I recognized the difference was I was never going to be challenged as much, in the Marine Corps as I
Right.
was physically in wrestling, but I did experience being uncomfortable. You're cold, you're
Right.
hungry, you're wet, you're not sleeping. And that was the unique challenge because when you're an athlete, you're trying to get the proper food, the proper rest, the proper all that. So that was what the big difference was. That was the challenge, being uncomfortable. Get
Right.
comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right. Well, being strong and having that strong mindset makes a huge difference, though, right? So
Absolutely.
once you got
Absolutely.
there, I think that made a big difference. And I never did a lot of wrestling, but I did some MMA after the Marine Corps.
Oh,
and
awesome.
I was just blown away how much of a workout it is. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like you're expending so much energy. And I just did some sparring when I was at the training gym I was doing. Just after a couple rounds, you're like dead. It's like so I can't even
Okay.
imagine with wrestling. So it's pretty interesting. So all right, awesome. Tell us what does it mean to be a constitutional colonel and what you were doing?
Okay. So, well, this is unique. I never meant to become the constitutional colonel. Okay. So when I retired, I ended up going back to Illinois as my family was there. My folks were getting older. My sister wasn't doing that great. I wanted to be closer to home. I did take a position, a job as the commandant of a military academy. And most people don't realize that, but Chicago Public Schools has the biggest JROTC program in the country. I didn't know it, and I grew
Oh
up
wow,
there.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
And I live here, right?
yeah, exactly. So I became the commandant. Think of me as a principal, okay, of the academy. There's the Chicago Public School principal, but then we partner, and I was the commandant.
Hmm.
So I got there because, let's face it, I knew Chicago Public School was being challenged. I knew these poor children, these poor kids were not getting what they needed. I was hoping to be able to go and help build good Americans and good citizens. So I got there. And we went on strike. The teachers went on strike immediately. So we were off for a couple of weeks. We came back from that. COVID came out. So
Hmm.
we were sent home. So
Right.
I was there for a couple of years and I barely got a chance to teach. We finally come back to school in a modified program, right? And the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, Pedro Martinez, who happened to be fired from San Antonio School District because he mandated the vaccine and the mask on his students and his staff, which Governor
That made
Abbott.
him automatically qualified for Illinois, by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's it. Lori
Yeah. Yeah.
Lightfoot immediately hired him to
Right.
become the CEO of Chicago Public Schools.
Wow.
So soon after we get back to school, he gives everybody in the district the day off so they can get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated and boosted. Now, I had been studying
Wow.
a little bit, and I'd been talking to Dr. Robert Malone and Peter McCullough, Mary Talley about it. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was child abuse, and I knew the jabs were not safe nor effective. I wrote an email to the parents and to the cadets, and I said, please do not get vaccinated or boosted until you talk to your doctor about the government data that you can find on OpenVAERS, the vaccine adverse event reporting system. Within minutes, I got a phone call from Chicago Public Schools, the administration. Did you just send this email out? I said, I certainly did. Well, you can't do that. That's against policy. I said, no, that's a legal requirement. It's called informed consent. You need to provide the risks with the benefit for any drug or vaccine, especially a vaccine that's experimental. Said, well, you're suspended immediately. We're going to investigate you and we're going to, all kinds of threats. I said, please do. Well, shortly thereafter, I was fired, a few
Okay.
months later.
Yeah.
This is what really opened my eyes. I'm like, I knew there were bad things happening, Dave. I just didn't know to what level. And I had to delve in deep and start learning about what was going on. And it's at that point when I started doing that, I realized we are living in two alternate universes, we in the United States of America and across the globe. There's what we believe is happening, and then there's what's really happening. I said, I need to get this word out. And that's when I started the blog page and I called it the Constitutional Colonel. I said, I need to share this information. So I never had intentions to become a journalist. I never had intention to become a writer or a podcaster, but I knew I needed to get this information out. So that's when I started it. And in short, I will just tell you right now, we are living in two different universes. Almost everything from our federal government for the last several decades has been lies and misinformation.
Yeah.
Going back to the John F. Kennedy assassination, going back to the moon landing, going back to 9/11.
Right.
Okay, 9/11. I spent 7 tours in the Middle East, right? Because I thought it was the right thing to do. Now, after everything I've done, because I've been deep diving, and you can get all these articles I'm talking about on my website,
Okay.
Constitutional Colonel or Substack. But that is what I've been committed to now. The enemy are the globalists,
Right.
those that want a one world government that puts we the people in a digital concentration camp. And they can't do it openly, so they have to control the narrative. These people are at the top of banking, politics, education, entertainment, big pharma, and media. They own the media. So that's why everything you see today, you have a weird feeling. It doesn't seem to match up. They're saying this race is close as ever, razor thin. How could it be? Right?
Right.
Donald Trump has gained votes in the Hispanic community, the Black community, the Asian community, the young people, union workers, even the Arab community, but as close as ever. You
Yeah.
know, and I know that's nonsense.
Yeah,
Trump is
it's
getting
an
cut.
illusion. It's an illusion. I just saw a
Yeah,
poll recently. I was just watching an interview where it said that Harris had most of the women, like 50 something percent of the women. It's
yeah.
like that's not right. And they were talking about it's because of our bodies, our choice reason. It's like, okay, what happened to our bodies, our choice when it was COVID, right? So
There you go.
it's
There you
pretty
go.
interesting how everything is spun. And actually, Bill O'Reilly was on there as well. So that's reminding me about everything spun in a different way for their agenda, right? And that's what's
Right.
been happening since, like you said, before Kennedy, right? If somebody has an agenda, they're going to launch it out on the regular media, and they're just going to talk about it. I'm sure you saw some clips a year or two ago where there was several uh, uh, news. What do you call these guys? I don't even watch the news anymore. News broadcast.
Anchors.
Yeah, there's news broadcasters, anchors, and they were actually saying the same exact word verbatim, right? And they put them.
It's called Project Mockingbird, and
Yes, yes,
it's facilitated with the CIA. And these talking points get trickled down, and that's why they're all saying the same thing. And
right,
that's how you know it's all lies.
right,
These people
exactly.
are props.
Right, right. So I think this is awesome that you're able to provide other information that that does not have an agenda, right? So I think it always makes sense to get two sides, and whatever you decide, because we fought for your freedom, right?
Yep.
And then you guys could decide what the right thing is, but don't get suckered into just believing one source, right? Whether it's just one news article, right? I know some people that just watch one news channel and that's it. So what do you think is going to happen? I was having a conversation with somebody last week. It's like, you know what? We're all a product of what we ingest, right? So and being in technology before, I compared it to hardware and software, right? So whatever software you're being programmed with, that's what you're going to believe, right? But try to be a little bit more open and get two different sources so you can make an intelligent decision. So I think that's great, what you're doing. I think that with the upcoming elections, it's going to be very interesting on what's going on. So you definitely want to be educated on what's going on. But tell me a little bit more, Larry, what you think.
Yeah, well, there's a few points I think are important to highlight. First and foremost, you talked about information. You're absolutely right. So the globalist has been around for a long time, and you can go to my website and get more details. But the bottom line is, they've been able to make progress. Now, you have to understand, in order to have a one world government, you can't have a sovereign country like the United States with a constitution that says our unalienable rights come from God, our creator, not a bunch
Right.
of billionaires and globalists who want to play God. See? So they own corporate media. When they started this, in a heavy manner, I'll just say 50, 60 years ago in the 70s, there was only three networks, ABC, CBS, and
Yep.
NBC. It was easy to get Project Mockingbird out, get the talking points out, and control the masses.
Mhm.
Now, there's still only six major corporations that own 90% of what we read, see, and hear. Okay. Only 10% is unregulated and uncontrollable. The podcasters, such as yourself, the people that write on Substack, the people that have their own web pages, those kinds of folks. So only 10% is not controlled media. And that is why they're so scared and afraid of it. And that is why you keep hearing these threats that we got to squash these guys. These people should not be able to talk freely. And I will just say this for anybody out there, if you really want to get to the truth, you have to talk to people who have been canceled, censored, or attacked. If they haven't been, they're part of the problem. Anybody who has been speaking the truth gets canceled, attacked, or censored. Look at Tucker Carlson. Look at what he was saying beforehand. He was bringing things up he wasn't supposed to talk about. Look at Dan Bongino. Look at Alex Jones. Look at Peter McCullough, Robert Mueller. Look at all these great patriots committed to the truth and how they've been viciously attacked. Even myself, I was fired. Think about this. All I said was, please talk to your doctor about the data that you can find on Open VAERS, which is government data.
Right.
That was unallowable. So this has been my quest now since that time is to get the truth out on every single important issue, because the reality is those who control the narrative control the world.
Right.
And, going back to Clausewitz and infantry and warfare, if you look at the enemy, which I do consider the globalists are the enemy because they want to destroy America for a one world government. That is why we have an open border. That is why they're spending recklessly, destroying our economy. That is why they're facilitating the flow of
Yeah,
fentanyl.
it's no accident that the border is open, right? It's like
Exactly.
you could shut that down in like a couple of weeks if you wanted to, but it's open for a reason. But go ahead.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. But we're being attacked on multiple fronts. These provoked wars in Ukraine and in Israel, we facilitated those. And again, I write about those on my podcast or my page. But the bottom line is we are at war right now, and most people are blind to it. I'm very critical of our military members, especially the senior ranking folks and our representatives who we elected to fight for us, because if I know, and a lot of people are getting wise to it now, and it's out there, you should know this. And, that is an invasion on our border. I talked to some smart people that are in the Border Patrol and some sheriffs and some other patriots that are down there. The consensus is about 40 million people have come across the border.
Wow.
And we don't know who they are.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
Terrorists, gang members, cartel members. We have no idea.
Right.
Because, but you see this. So this is the war we are in. But the center of gravity for the enemy is their monopoly on the false narratives.
Right.
So bottom line is they can't survive the truth. And that is why we must flood it and get it out there.
Right.
And that's the key to our victory.
And I think a lot of people are stepping up to serve in the political arena. I think I know that you ran for Congress here in Illinois as well, right? So
yep.
I think I've seen a lot of different Navy SEALs that are doing it recently, which is pretty cool. So I think that's that's something that we need to also encourage people to do, right? Serve, we served in the Marine Corps, served in whatever branch. It's like, you know what? The way to change stuff is to be active and get involved.
Well, I will tell you this, though. This is something we have to be aware of. Those that are elected into office get controlled very quickly.
Right.
By the globalists. Okay.
Right.
We know this. We've seen this, right? I mean, if you really think about it, why do we not have any representatives? I mean, there's a small handful. I will just give you that. But it should be every single member in the House and Senate complaining about the invasion, about the border. You'd mean to tell me we can't do anything?
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody talking about it. That's a good point.
What about the lethal jab? We know right now. I'm talking to smart people. They said 20 million people across the globe have died from the vaccine.
Wow.
And we're still counting. Okay. And these are conservative numbers.
Right.
Okay. The data is overwhelming, but nobody's addressing it. When you look at what's going on with these provoked wars, why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing the fentanyl? Why are we allowing the human trafficking? All of our representatives who are supposed to be fighting for us are sitting on the sideline because they're controlled. Right now, the greatest representative we have out there, besides Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's the one that's bringing this up. Byron Donalds is good. Jim Jordan's a friend of mine. I like him a lot, but he's been held back. Our representatives should be fighting and screaming at the top of their lungs of the injustices taking place in the world today. And I will tell you, because this is how it happens. And it's relevant today because we just saw what happened with P. Diddy. We just saw what happened with Epstein. We just saw what happened. But the bottom line, these people get controlled very early. Are you familiar with Madison Cawthorn?
No.
Madison Cawthorn was an elected congressman from North Carolina.
Okay.
Really sharp guy, 26 years old at the time, one of the youngest members of Congress elected.
Oh, wow.
Great conservative. He was in a wheelchair, was in a car accident. But he goes up to DC and he's doing great work. He's a stalwart, good conservative stalwart. He comes out one day and says, "You're not going to believe what happened to me last night." What happened? Well, I was invited to a party, and at this party, there were a lot of drugs. There was a lot of sex, and you're not going to believe who was there.
Wow.
The next day, Kevin McCarthy came out and said, "Well, don't listen to him. He's a crazy kid." Da 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 da. Next thing you know, they run a candidate against him. He gets out, and he's no longer a member of Congress. And he was a young, promising star. But this
Wow.
is what happens once you get someone compromised. And in Western
Yeah.
society, if you're with an underage person, your career is over. You're over, right? But once you get them on film or a picture or you own them.
Right,
And
exactly.
that is why our representatives no longer fight for we, the constituents, but for themselves and those that are controlling them.
Right.
And I'll give you one example. I worked on the Hill a few years ago, and he was a congressman from Texas.
Okay.
And he goes, "Larry, you're not going to believe this, but I mean, we all come up here to do the right thing." This is 10 years ago.
Okay.
Fight for right and freedom. But within a very short amount of time, we start making decisions we would have never thought about before we got there.
Right.
This is what's
Yeah,
happening.
and I've seen that in the corporate world, right?
Of course.
You can't say anything that they're doing wrong because you'll get fired, right? So unfortunately, it comes down to money, right?
Well, that
People are
sadly,
stuck on, and that's the other thing. They're stuck on the money. When something is being promoted or whatever, follow the money. That's why they're promoting it. It's not for your benefit 9 times out of 10, right? So,
yeah.
I tell people, take what the government tells you with a grain of salt, right? Because how much can you trust the government? I go, can you do me a favor, mail me $500 in the mail, right? Cash. And they go, well, I'll never do that. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? Because I don't trust the government. Okay, well, there you go, right? So I think, we say grain of salt, different sources to learn so we could actually make smarter decisions, right? Don't take everything from one avenue or one media source, and definitely look up Larry at constitutional. Is it constitutionalkernel.com?
Constitutionalkernelcol.com. But the best way to go is to go to Substack,
Okay,
and then look up Larry Kaifesh or Constitutional Colonel on Substack. That's where my information is not being censored. So that's a good source.
gotcha. Where we at time? Okay, all right, perfect. So obviously we're doing some great stuff. You're doing some great stuff by disseminating some good information, Larry. So thank you for that. The other question I always love to ask people is, how much has your faith contributed to your success?
Well, I was born and raised Catholic,
Okay,
and
same
pretty
here.
much through my whole life, I've been fighting for God, family, country, and the Constitution. And it's not a coincidence that those are the pillars that make America great. By we doing the same, we can make ourselves hopefully great. But no, it's absolutely important. As a Catholic, though, we're not normally vocal about it, as some great Christians are. We're kind of private about it. But no, I pray every night, and I'm doing a lot more praying, especially right now with this election coming up, because if we do not get President Trump in office, the globalists will be successful in doing what they want, which is to destroy America and bring on a one world government. And we just cannot allow that. But we must all get ready because it's going to get bumpy. They're not going to let this go easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're gonna do whatever they can, right? They already tried to kill him twice. Is it twice? Was that twice that they tried to
Oh,
kill
they
him?
tried to kill him twice. They tried to indict him. They tried to jail
Right.
him. They tried to impeach him. They tried to bankrupt him. This is the level of evil we're dealing with today, and that's the proper word.
Right.
This is a battle between good and evil. And Archbishop Vigano has really talked about that exceptionally well. If you haven't seen some of his writings and letters to President Trump, it's worth looking into.
Okay, awesome. Uh, what words of wisdom would you offer the audience about achieving success for all the younger guys listening?
Um, Happy are those that are willing to do what it takes to make their dreams come true.
Nice.
So have dreams and be committed to the cause and do whatever it takes to make those dreams come true. And enjoy life every day. It's fleeting. It's a blessing. And especially in today's world, we just don't know when bad things are going to come up.
That's true. What keeps you, what keeps you motivated every day? No, if you could go back, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? If you could go back in time.
Yeah. If I could go back in time, I would say respect the time, value the time, and don't waste a single second because it's fleeting. And I think I was fairly efficient with my time, growing up. But let's face it, you think you're invincible and you think you got all the time in the world, and then next thing you know, you're 50 years old and you're like, wow, what happened?
Right.
So I think if I had to do anything, even though we all know it, I would emphasize it. Treasure every single moment, make every second count because it goes fast. And this blessing of life we have, here on earth is fleeting.
Yeah, I can tell by all my gray hairs. It's like, where do those come from? That's right.
Oh, I thought you did that for style. It looks good.
I think when I started this podcast, it hasn't even been a year ago. There weren't as many, so I'm not sure what's going on. Would you have taken the same career path if you knew now what you knew, back when you were 20?
Yeah, yeah. No, I always believe. I bled red, white, and blue from the time I was this
Yep.
tall. For
I
whatever
knew that
reason,
answer.
I was
Yep.
always a patriot. I always wanted to serve. I always loved my country. I think the bicentennial maybe had something to do with it. I mean,
Yeah, that's
we
right.
were at that age,
1776.
young
Yep.
age, when that celebration come out. So I'm excited about President Trump talking about doing the same thing here at the next centennial. But I think I would continue to serve, and I probably would have just utilized my time a little wiser,
Okay.
And if I could change one thing, you know what I wish I would have done more?
What's that?
Read,
Yeah.
read, because I'm doing more reading now than I've ever done. As I'm trying to dig deeper and deeper, and my bookcase, I've always been a reader, but my bookcase has grown exponentially just the last few years. And I've always had a healthy appetite for reading, but it's really invaluable. We're doing less and less of it because we're doing more podcasting, more scrolling on our phones and all that. But I think it's invaluable. We as a society must try to resist it a little bit. Continue reading because there's nothing that can compete with it.
Right.
As far as stimulating the brain and stimulating your thoughts and getting us informed, except for your podcast. That's the only thing that can.
But and I totally agree with you, right? More knowledge, more power, right?
Yeah, yeah,
All leaders are readers. You've heard that before, right? So
absolutely,
if you're getting more
absolutely.
information, you're bound to grow, right? I was going to ask, oh, would you run for Congress again?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think in the world we live in today, I'm not saying this is 100%, but I'm just going to say this is very
Yeah,
relevant.
here and now. Yeah, that's
If
fine.
if you if if you are the type of person that's principled and cannot be bought, the chances of you winning are very slim.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
The big money people will only get involved with you if they know they can control you. And I experienced this when I ran for Congress. Okay.
Correct.
As soon as they realized, oh shit, this guy's a patriot. This guy's committed. You're not going to buy this guy. I had some good donors that stopped donating because I said some things that demonstrated I'm not for sale and I'm in it because I love the country. But if you are easily manipulated, if you look at up who's getting elected today,
Right.
people that can be owned and principled. And again, I'm not saying that's 100%. There are some great representatives coming in. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one, right?
Right.
She's one of my
Exactly.
favorites. Byron Donalds is another. He's one of my favorites. But let's just say it's going to be exceptionally challenging to win, and that's the sad thing. So
Got
we
it.
have to reevaluate our election cycle if we're gonna survive in the manner that we want.
Right.
Uh, so would I run? I'm not say no. I would do it if the opportunity was there for me to serve in a selfless manner, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
for the country and the constituents. And that's what I always prided myself on, selfless servant. When I ran, I said I only wanted half my salary because I don't want to do it for any other reasons. I would not take a retirement because I was trying to demonstrate I want to do this because I love the country and I'm here to serve it. And I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities until I can't do it anymore. So, but once you do that, you mark yourself.
Yeah.
This guy's not going to get bought, and you're not going to get the money.
Yeah,
Because let's face it,
you're a red flag when you start talking
oh
like
yeah,
that. It's like you're done. Yeah.
the money
So,
people know who they can control and who they can't. And
right.
if because they don't care about you as a candidate, they don't
No,
want you to exercise your ambition.
they want their policies
They
promoted.
want to
Yeah.
control.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
So,
hopefully we could turn that around one day. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Even with the new election, if it changes over, it's going to take a long time. But it's a great point for people to think about. So,
yeah.
all right, we're about wrapped up. What would you like people listening today to remember about you or your work?
Well, I think the most important thing right now, because I use this term, but we are at war. We are
Yep.
not engaging in war, but
Yep.
we're being waged war upon. Okay, the
Exactly.
globalists are trying to destroy us. The vaccine that were pushed have killed millions. The invasion across the border is causing irreparable harm. The destructive economy and the spending is going to destroy our economy. So we go to a central bank digital currency and we are controlled, and that's what they want. So because of this, recognize that threat and understand what the enemy's center of gravity. The center of gravity is their monopoly on the narrative.
Yeah.
And basically, they have to use propaganda, lies, and deceit to get their agenda through because we won't tolerate it. So the truth is the enemy to the enemy, right? So they can't survive the truth. We must get it out. And a very famous person once said, "If the truth shall kill them, let them die."
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the most important thing. The truth is going to prevail and the truth is going to set us free. And I think it's happening right now. The dam of lies has cracks in it and holes in it, and they're getting bigger every day. But we need to continue pushing until the dam comes down and the evil globalists that are trying to destroy America for a one world government are finally held accountable.
Do you think one person can change that coming up, or do you think that's going to take a long time as
Well,
well?
it's not one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trump is leading a MAGA movement. But
Right.
look at me. I'm a person speaking the truth.
Right.
Look at Alex Jones. People thought he was crazy. He was talking about this decades ago.
Yeah, he was right all along.
Look at, yeah.
But they promoted him as crazy. You're right.
But go back and look at his predictions. Go back and look at his stories. He was calling out the pandemic 10 years ago, or 10
Right.
years before it came out. Spot on. Okay. But um
And that's another reason to keep your eyes open, right? A lot of people don't know that,
absolutely.
right? A lot of people, if you're watching just the standard media, you would have never heard that, right? So
That's
you don't
right.
have that information to make that intelligent decision. So thank you for bringing that up.
And that's why I would say only listen to people that have been canceled, censored, or attacked if you want the truth. And there's a good interview the other day. Brett Weinstein, he's a doctor, a smart guy, talking to Tucker Carlson, and he made I'm going to paraphrase, but he goes, you know what? Because he's talking about the globalists. These people are extremely powerful. They're extremely wealthy. They're extremely resourced. I think we're fighting Goliath. But look what's happened after the pandemic.
Right.
It brought Tucker out. It brought parents out. It brought certain teachers out. It brought people like me out. He says, RFK Jr. is now a Republican fighting with you. Tulsi Gabbard is now with you. Joe Rogan is now with you. You
Right.
got all these powerful people. He goes, the war is not over, but I like our odds.
Yeah. We're chipping away. We
They're
got a team
getting
to chip
better.
away. We have a squad or a platoon, right? Just chip
And that's
away.
why that is why this election is so critical.
Right.
Yeah, and they know it too. The globalists know it too. In fact, Yuval Noah Harari, who's the lead advisor to Klaus Schwab, who runs the World Economic Forum, has made it clear if Trump wins this election, our globalist dreams and ambitions are over.
Nice.
So if
Well,
anybody needed a reason to vote for Trump, that is it.
I encourage you guys all to go out and vote. Don't forget to vote, right? Because right now it matters, especially with all the people coming in from the border. They're trying to skew the numbers as well.
Yep.
But Larry, thank you so much for joining us today. May God bless you and your family and keep up the fight and Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, Dave. Thanks for all you do. God bless you.
God bless you. Have a good day.